Hi, welcome to another Roboflow training movie. In this movie we will cover the import of metadata from an XML file. We already did that in previous movies, but we are going to cover a little bit more complex XML structure, so giving you an idea how you can step through such a file. Basically, the workflow is very simple. It's a hot folder workflow, which means that it will process any file dropped in a specific folder, and I prepared a folder in this place, and I changed the file filter that I only want to receive XML files to avoid other people dropping stuff in this folder that this workflow is not meant to process. When the workflow runs, the first thing I do is I store the file, the hot file, as an XML file, as an XML table. So this XML table gives me the opportunity to now process the elements of that table. Since this is an XML file, it will have tables inside tables. It's not a tab limited file where you simply have rows and columns, but you have elements inside elements. So you have to know up front, of course, what element you are looking for that you want to process, because I have here a container products, but you might have other containers in here. So how do we process this? I'm processing the XML table elements from this XML table, so this gives me another table as a result. It gives you a table as a result, and it gives you also the key under which it was found. So I'm outputting this. Products is how I called the export, and it will have something called products key, so I'm outputting that to my log file. Then I want to process the additional or the next level underneath. If we look in the XML file, now I'm on this level, so I want to process now the individual sublevels of this. Okay, so that means that in this case I want to process another table, another XML table in a table, and I give it a new name. I'll show you this in a moment, but normally you just select this, and then I output again the key that I got, product key. So it's called product. If you suffix it with key, it gives you what was the key. The key is unique, or it will make it unique. So in this case it's product, but when it encounters the second product instance, it will add a counter, as we will see. Then store XML table elements. Now that we have reached the bottom level of which we want to process, there are no repetitions of elements anymore that are container for other elements. We are actually at the level that we want. So that means that at this point we are going to store this part as parameters. So I will ask him to store this parameter under the name prod_id, so I can access it directly. Another solution could be that you're just use the instruction process rows of a table, or process XML table elements from this table, and then you will get these elements one by one. If they're no longer a table, they will be a string value or an array, depending on what they are. But in this case, I'm using this instruction to create elements that I can call by a tag. So that's why I can do here tag prod_id, prod_id, and prod_name, because they exist. I know they exist in the script. So if I execute this particular workflow, I say start. what happens is if I go to the log, it has found my file, it reads it, and it finds a first level products, which is correct. This is a first level products. And then the second thing it finds is a second level product. And you see, because there are multiple products in there, it has stored it with a hash. It stores the first one with the normal key because up front it doesn't know that it will repeat itself. But then when the next and the next and the next comes in, then you will see that it will add that with numbers. It will repeat the original value also with that number. So if you ever want to do a counter, you could use this suffix. Now we can refine this a little bit, because what we are seeing here is that it is not sorted. It's an XML table and XML is not sorted. So we can tell it that we do want it sorted. So to be able to do that, I just have to prefix this by saying sort. And by doing this, when I run the workflow again, the result will be sorted. You see, now it starts with product hash, but now I maybe don't want this to be processed twice. If it's just setting field values, no problem, you can process it twice, it's not a worry. But maybe I only want to process this once. So what I can do is, I notice that it always starts with this. So I can say I want only to process those elements. This way you could also filter out other unwanted parts of an XML file that you don't want to process. I can simply say here in this processing that my search value needs to start with. Now be careful, this functionality starts with only exists since Roboflow version 10.1.19. And so if you have a prior version, you can do an exact match, but not a fuzzy match. And so you cannot use the wildcard in that case. So if I run this and I say, first I have to make sure that I have my text file there, and so I save it back into that folder and start. And you will notice in the log that suddenly we only have 2 entries. The product entry is no longer processed, so we filtered it out. So you can also make sure that if the XML file, for instance, would contain other sections, so I can remove, I can add sections that I maybe don't want to process. So if I call this other product, then this will not be processed by the workflow. And so you can that way filter out any of the sections that you want or don't want. Make sure your XML file always has a top level. Don't put your individual elements in the root of the XML. A valid XML file always needs a top level, like products or whatever you want to call it. So if now in the workflow we want to do something with that XML stuff that we found, well, we can simply say, okay, new, and of course this is not, wait, I'll put it here. So we could say new, we could say, I want to open the catalog. I want to open a Cumulus catalog, and you will see in other training movies that I usually don't put it hard-coded in the script itself, but it's just for the purpose of the test. Usually I put the name of the catalog here, so you don't have to search for it later on, but in this example I make it quick and dirty. So I just put it here. Whenever you open a catalog, make sure that you close it. And then here we found some elements, so I can say new. I want to find that record, so I'm going in the catalog to find records, and then I specify which catalog, catalog1. And what is my query? I'm going to add here ID equals something, and I'm going to pick it up from my stored environment. Oh yeah, it's not visually stored for the script, so I'm going to pick it up from where I've used it before. See, so, and I go here, and it's equals that. So the query will fail if there's no product ID found, but in this case it should find it, and then we can say new. Now we searched for the record with a certain ID, so we are going to process the records found, which should only be one, and then we're going to present it under the tag hot to the workflow, and then I can say, okay, just for purpose of making sure that you have the right record, I'm going to store field value, store record field value as text. I'm from which record, and I'm going to say I want the record name, and I give it a name. I say rec name, and then I'm going to output that. I'm going to make a notification. I'm going to write that to the log saying, okay, record found, and here I'm going to say I'm picking up the rec name, the variable I just created, the text variable I just created, and then now I'm going to set a field value, and so I'm going to Cumulus record, and I'm going to set a field value. And what is the field value I want to set? Well, let's take the example of notes. So I'm doing the notes field. What do I want to set? Well, actually something that I already outputted, being the product name. And so I can output whatever I like, of course, but I want to output the product name. I want to save, the product name in this field, so I'm picking it up from a stored variable which came from the XML, and that's it. So now I'm verifying that my XML file exists. Yes, it's in my drop folder. So now I run my workflow, and hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. I did it quick and dirty, so let's see. It says that it has processed an XML record with ID 129. It found the record airplane, and then it says 131, and it found the record, and the value that it should have set is first product and second product. That's what we should find in the notes field of those two fields. So here is my catalog, notes, first product, and then here, notes, second product. So this was an example of how you can process XML files, picking up only pieces of it, going several levels deep, and still keeping the workflow, getting the elements it requires, and finding the records, in this case by record ID. It could be a SKU, it could be the file name, whatever, and setting the value and skipping elements like it didn't process this one. Okay, thank you for joining this training movie, and see you in the next one.